Happy Friday. Happy August 2nd. Can't believe it's August already, but let's jump in there. And again, trying to get you some information. Just a reminder, because not everybody attends every meeting, we did not have a section manager meeting in June, so we're kind of picking it up from July, which is reported in August. So if it looks like there's a gap, there is a gap for a reason. And just a reminder that, the Idaho section is a part of a much larger body, which is the division. And that's what Dan was talking about, the Northwestern division of which we are a part of. So again, just putting that there for reference. And again, you'll get a copy of this and use it however that you want to. And then on to some information about the board of directors. And what we were going to convey here, and I believe that there's one other slide that may come up, but rather than sort through and look and see where that is, they had a board of directors meeting that took place at the end of July. It was after the July section manager meeting, but before obviously our August 1st. And they were talking about a strategy and articulating and defining new strategies. And in the past, it's been along the lines of promoting amateur radio. And we've been adding things like the STEM programs about inspiring and education for use. And now they're really looking at serving members and driving growth through technology, adding it to the existing strategies and expanding our means and financial capability. And of course, you're aware of that dealt with QST magazine, changing of the fee structure and all that. They didn't touch in a lot of detail because, again, the meeting that I attended was talking about this session that was in the future at the time. This has taken place. This is part of that strategy, more to come. So just to let you know what's going on with the higher ups and primarily ARR headquarters. They added a third triad to the Teachers Institute. So the Teachers Institute is of a week-long program of different topics, and it's progressive. So you go through Teacher Institute 1, then you can pick up Teacher Institute 2, and now there's a Teacher Institute 3. So these are the topics of those sessions. They just held a beta session on a module that's centered around space. Once they kind of do the updates and versions there will be actually 3 weeks worth of Teacher Institute. And again, that's totally funded by the headquarters, and they pay the way for most of the expenses. I think there's 1 or 2 items that they don't cover for the teachers that apply and are accepted. They've added more number 1 and 2 sessions in 2024, and they're going to add even more in 2025. And I believe what they would like to have is the set of 3 have 5 different cohorts or sessions every year. So that would be a lot of training that they're investing in our teachers, in the STEM, and in the furthering of amateur radio.
So Don,
yes.
My name's Nathan Heyer. I'm down in Twin Falls area. Hey, I actually was able to go to that TI-1 training at the end of June. And I would definitely that's one of those things. If you guys know any STEM teachers around that have any flexibility on what they're teaching, that might have some interest, please get them involved. I mean, the biggest thing that, as far as what does it cover, I mean, they pay just about everything. It's just if you want to spend a little extra this or that, they don't cover that. But otherwise, I mean, it's, the basics are all covered with that. I came back with an SDR radio. I've got a little Fox unit that I can go through, use for fox hunts. I got a Arrow 2 antenna that I can go through and work satellites. different, a whole bunch of different things that they had with that. And I just want to make sure you guys know that is a great thing if you can get teachers. We were Northwest area was they have a map showing where teachers have been. Northwest area is virtually unrepresented, almost unrepresented on that.
Yeah, in a lot of different areas, and I appreciate you jumping on there, because we do have a couple of teachers in the Boise area, and a lot of us have been supporting that. First off, and Nathan, you can pay me later. We don't pay teachers enough anyway, and many times when they do these programs, they do it out of their pocket. So I'm glad to see a program like this, and them putting it together and having a program that builds in the right areas, and that and encouraging the youth to do this. Nathan, just curious, what grades do you cover in your program?
I'm middle school, but mostly seventh and eighth grades on this. But one of the, like I say, one of the cool things here is I already teach an electronics class where it just kind of fits in, and I can use some of these things, just some activities to get them interested. We're already doing we use electromagnetism to teach, basic Morse key. And then, if we, go from, gives them an entrance there. There's other radios where, we start using, like I say, the fox hunt, things like that. So, there's some really good low level things that you can basically work on with that. And with that. So one other thing of note on that is that third level, the TI3, what they were telling us while we were there is essentially they're going to, that third level is, you have to start out TI1, 2, and then 3 and work your way up. They basically want to find the people that are interested, that are doing the stuff, and they're more than happy to get you there. But that last level, they actually start doing balloons. And setting up transmitters up there for tracking stuff like that. So great opportunity.
Oh yeah, and so thank you for jumping in there, because this is also, the teachers, when they come back, they can use your help too. And I know that there's a lot of people. It's another opportunity. And there was a lot of mention of the PicoSacs and other different technologies and programs that they're going to put in that third session. All right, Definitely. So appreciate those comments, and certainly put any questions in the chat, and we'll or I or Nathan will answer whatever we can. But yeah, I look at that and wish that we could help even more in those cohorts that they have going on. All right, so kind of coming back to the rest of us, they did announce that they have 3 new sessions for MCOM. And in the past, we've had to pay for this. You've gone through many iterations of this through the years. This time it is free. It's courtesy of ICOM. They're paying for it. And there's basic MCOM, intermediate, and advanced MCOM. And again, you go to the ARRL Learning Center. There's a URL for it, and you'll be able to sign up and take those courses. And if you have taken some of the earlier courses, don't hesitate to go through them again. We're some of us can forget a lot. Some of us are old dogs. Some of us just need new tricks. Whatever your reason or excuse, it's always good to go through and look at the training again. If you joined us, for August, and you were going to talk about submitting your field day log, or wanted to talk about your field day event or the club grant program, you're too late. Just as a reminder, we've been talking about these programs. The club grant program, they have received the proposals, are going to go through them. Depending on how many are granted, we'll say if they have a second session. But if you recall that they were going to go through and try to do it in one session this time and get that done. So that's in progress now. And June 23rd, I believe, was the last day to submit your field day. And again, I think we, wasn't that fun? And we had a good time talking about it last month. And it's not too late to write something up and send to Polly, and because she can always put that in the newsletter. Wanted to share a couple of things, and this is a true story. A picture of an electrical outlet that was on the circuit that fed my radio at home. And so this isn't a long ago story. This is like within the last 2 weeks. And just wanted to pass it on because I smelled a faint burning odor at times during the last couple of weeks. And in Boise area, it's been extremely smoky. It's been extremely hot. The loads have been greater. And in this case, the breaker never tripped. My smoke detectors never alerted that there was a problem. And on day 3, I could smell it again, and I went out, and the right-hand side of this plug was actually glowing like a light bulb. These outlets were installed back probably 20 years ago. And on the left-hand side, you can see they use that gripper type connection in the back, which is not how I wire outlets. But just as a caution, be aware of it. And I assumed that the smoke I was smelling was from the fires outside, and it wasn't. So I'm glad to be here tonight because I was able to detect that. So get your thermometers out, look at those outlets, don't ignore it. Then the other thing, it's interesting. Don Gardner and I, because of our day jobs, we get involved in fires. And Don was saying he was wrapping it up. I'm really quite involved and have been for ever since the last week of June in fires. And I just want to pass on. And you say, what does this have to do about ham radio? Well, Dan has a cabin. I'm sure many of you have other buildings where you have structures, or maybe it's your primary structure, and defensible fire space is so important. And knowing about evacuations, about the 3 tiers, get ready, get set, and then go. And things like trimming the lower branches so that the fire doesn't come at the bottom and become a fire ladder and go all the way to the top of a tree and then over to a roof or anything like that. And, I'm constantly telling people to remove combustibles from around your buildings. Have your go kits ready, and that's a personal go kit. The important things in your life, like photos, go kit, and then of course your radio go kit. And something that I know Don and I've been preaching for years is always drive on the top half of your fuel tank. And the other thing I was just going to pass on, because the fire season seemed to be getting worse and worse, is that we're starting to hear more about mega fires and complex fires. Now, complex fires have been around for a while, but a complex fire is when 2 smaller fires join together, and they call them a complex. And sometimes it's not just 2, sometimes it's 3 or 4. And complex fires require a higher level of an incident management team. So they bring in a lot of things. They have different behaviors than your smaller fires that are around, even some of the smaller ones that we've had in Idaho. Then there's the mega fires. A mega fire is a fire once it individually exceeds 100,000 acres burned, becomes a mega fire, and it's sometimes even worse than a complex fire, and it's even worse when a mega fire joins other fires and takes up a whole area like I have going on in Northern California right now. So again, we need to be safe. We need to be aware of our surroundings so that you can serve amateur radio and support these agencies if you are so supporting them. Then kind of coming down for Idaho, just going to say that, yes, we've got in the next week excessive heat, bad air quality, high temperatures, low humidity, which is basically what they call fire weather. Lightning storms are predicted with no or little precipitation, and every time there's a lightning storm, hundreds of smaller fires get started, and of course there's evacuations. And then as we close out, obviously you can reach us at allidahohams@gmail.com. And it was 102 degrees today in Post Falls. Supposed to be 91 degrees tomorrow and cloudy. So all you guys and gals that are attending the Idaho State Convention, have a great time. I hope that it's a great event for you. I had intended on being there, but the day job is calling me elsewhere. So stay hydrated, stay safe, and I'll see you next month right here at this meeting. All right, Dan, if there's no questions, I'll stop sharing and turn it back to you.
All right. Are there any questions out there? Okay. Oh no, I thought Kevin had his hand up, but that was my cursor over there. All righty. Well, that was good. Thank you. Very well done. Don has been between work and being sick. He's been pretty busy, so I appreciate him put that together. Okay. Mr. Kelly, you're on board. You want to talk a little bit about the website and activities you like to get into?
You're muted, Kelly.
Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. You'd think I'd catch on. Okay, this will be a simple one tonight. I only have this one page, but we have a website, and it's idahoarrl.info. And I think there probably should be a little more activity on it than there is. I wanted to go over 6 major things that you can do on the Idaho Ham Radio webpage for the ARRL. Number 1 is you can submit repeater information. We have a repeater directory on there, and I'd like to keep it as accurate as possible, and it is a user updated repeater directory. And there are links all over the page there that you can click on, and you can fill out a form and send me information on your local repeaters. Now, there may not be any new repeaters in your area or any of that. It may be repeaters you've used for a long time. What I would like to ask is that any of you who use these repeaters and know anything about them, if you could just go to our Idaho ARRL info site and click on repeaters and go to the repeater directory and check the repeater information in your area and make sure what we have on that page is correct. Because over time things change and I don't get the change, and so we have old information on the repeater site. So the only way I can really keep it updated is with you folks keeping me updated on this. So if you would, I just ask each one of you just to kind of keep an eye on your local repeaters, and when there's a change, you could email me, and my email is plastered all over the website, but my name is Kelly, so it's kelly@k7su.com. So it's pretty easy email. You can also report a silent key. On the menu, you can click SK report, and it'll take you to a page that tells you how you can report a silent key from your area in Idaho. That way, we have a gentleman then who will get that information, and he will pass it along to the ARRL and to the FCC. There's a couple of things that are needed in order to report a silent key, but that's all outlined on the page. We also have a suggestion box on there. So if there's anything that you would like to suggest to the Idaho team that you'd like to see happen, or something that you're not happy with or whatever, just use that suggestion box, and the Idaho team will get that, and we'll do with it what we can. There's also a page that has a list of all of the club websites in the state with a link to those websites. And again, if you would check your local website and check the link in the website, in our website, and make sure it's working. If it's not, send me an email with the proper link, and I'll make sure that gets changed. Right under that, we also have links to all the club Facebook pages in the state. And if you're checking these over and you say, oh, I don't have such and such on there, or then let me know. Send me an email, and I'll get the new Facebook page on there. We also have a calendar of events on there with things coming up. This is a little more difficult to keep updated. So again, I covet your information. If you have an event coming up with your ham club or something in your area that would be of interest to hams coming up in your area, send me an email with the information and I'll get it on the calendar. And again, that's www.idahoarrl.info. So please use it and have fun with it, and let me know if there's any changes that need to be done on it, and I'll take care of it. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Kelly. That was great. Any questions out there? That website is a great common source website. I mean, it's, if I want to find out what's going on with Polly's club, I have to know where to find her website. And there's lots of clubs and lots of activities. You have to know that stuff. And if you don't, you can't get to them. So the best thing to do is keep that Idaho site updated so that we can people can use your repeaters and get you your club sites and so forth. So please keep it updated. Kelly does a great job, but he needs the information to do it with. Okay, moving along here. Don Gardner. He's not on fire.
Sir. Everybody, welcome to August. It's such a calm month ahead of us. Yes, tongue in cheek there. We're going to do our 10 minutes or less program here. And we're going to talk about wildland fire. And I really appreciate Don Lind kicking that off for us, because that really brings us up to speed. So here we are, August, ready to enjoy ourselves. But what happened in July? Let's say goodbye to July. I mean, seriously, this is the Gwen fire. This is the one in my neighborhood. This is typical wildland fire in Idaho, especially in the north, where we have a lot of canyons and steep hills. But one thing about the weather, July is our hot month. Believe it or not, August is not our hot month. In fact, all records set in Idaho for temperature was in July. In fact, the record, which I say once in a while, for Idaho is 118 degrees, happened in July in Orofino. So, but August still gets hot days, don't get me wrong, but the records were set in July. What happens though, what you got to remember, in July we hit our summer solstice and we start shifting back to our winter season. August turns into a transition period with high temperatures. So now we get storms and dry lightning storms and wind and a lot of things that cause fire. So August really is our wildland fire month, yet we've really been through a lot already. So let's talk a minute about wildfires. How do wildfires start? Well, you guys, this is kind of sad. 84% of wildfires are human caused. This data link is based on 5 years in the United States. You'll see the number one cause, 25% of that 84%, is burning trash and debris. Something got away from you. 22% was unknown human causes. Actually, we do know, we just don't talk about it a lot, like power lines or things like this that we don't want to make too public. There's also things like somebody using a grinder. This happened in my town on a trailer with all the grinder sparks going into the grass next to his driveway. Started a major fire. Arson is 17%. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those that remember the 2015 fires for up here, that was a complex. We had 3 type 1 incident management teams and an area command team. It was such a big event, and Polly definitely would remember that one. But that brought in some arsons, and they started, because we were so busy, they started lighting fires near us, and we had to go after those too, which really limited our equipment. Heavy equipment, dragging chains on towing, things like that. Campfires is 4%. Children, also, back to unknown human causes, fireworks fits in there, by the way. Smokers, that's kind of really disappearing though. And, you know, only 16% is natural caused. My screen's blocked by the people here. I think it's 16%. Yeah, 16% is natural cause. And that typically is dry lightning and in August. Now, we've already had some of that of course, in July. So what's this got to do with communication? What's interesting is all of the emergency managers and sheriffs and things like this have what's called a wireless emergency alert system, where they can push out an Amber Alert or evacuation alert, or the president can send a presidential alert. You've all received something like this before. You could be out of the area and you receive something. I was up in Coeur d'Alene teaching an ICS 400 class. There's firefighters, there's police, there's some ham radio operators up there, and all of a sudden, our phones went crazy all of a sudden. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's phones were going off. And it was about the 2 escaped prisoners down in Boise. Okay? So that happens. Well, I'm going to tell you some unfortunate things about the Gwen fire. We don't know the cause yet, but we do know it happened. And I know it happened because I had a gentleman in my office when it happened, and I saw it happen. His phone started going crazy, say, evacuate now, evacuate now, evacuate now. If you're between this road and this road, evacuate now. You're going, am I between those roads? Is that me? I says, you're in Orfino right now. You're nowhere near it, and you live in this area. You're nowhere near. But I'm getting, and then it went again and again, 4 times. His phone went, telling him to evacuate. Next thing I know, my phone's ringing off the hook. Don. We were told to evacuate. My friends, they're in wheelchairs. Where do I take them? Where do I take them? Where do I take them? You're in this community. You're 20 miles away. No, you don't need to evacuate. My phone did not stop. And did I have the time to do that? But I had to do it. It was really crazy. And all of a sudden it would go again. Alert, evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. Through this WIA system. I bring this up for a reason. We have a real famous one that happened. You guys might remember this one. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Ouch. Do we need to pay attention to them? Yes, but we need to read them. We need to understand them. And we can be falsely notified. Do you remember that? Well, not only did these alerts go out, but then Facebook went crazy. And I promise you, everybody believes what they read on Facebook. And I promise you, you will get the wrong advice and it'll be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. You know, Abraham Lincoln had the same problem on Facebook. All right, that's a joke, I know. So, realize social media is not a source for solid information. Realize that the WIA alerts are not solid information sources. Something's going on, but what? So, let's talk about that. Wildfires and ham radio operators. How do we function in that? How do we be a part of that? What do we do? Well, here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but we have a Colorado team that their ham radio groups are very active for helping in wildfires. But they built these relationships. It took years. Problem is that relationship is dimming right now. But it was such a good relationship. Walter Cronkite, who was also a ham, did a little documentary about this group in Colorado. And you can look it up on YouTube. Just do Walter Cronkite amateur radio, and you'll find that video. It's a very good radio, very good little program. Hawaii, they weren't responders, but they picked up where everything failed. That was the fires recently. They connected the islands. They got the communication going. They were more of a recovery tool than anything else. So I want to ask a very blunt question, only answered in your head. In Idaho, how many ham radio operators have been asked to deploy as a ham radio operator to a wildland fire? In my 25 plus years, 0. If anybody else has a better story, please share with it to me later. But if it's 1 or 2, that's very low. Now, I've been to hundreds, it feels like hundreds, of wildland fires due to my career, but never as a ham radio operator. So what can we do as ham radio operators if we're not asked to help with the radio communication at a scene? We could be really good at situational awareness. We can help clean up the Facebook problems. We can help calm people down. We can tell people, hey, no, this is real. We really can do situational awareness. I'm going to give you some tools. Some of you already have these tools, but some of you might not. I'm going to start with this one. It's called watch duty. This is pretty cool. It is about 95% accurate, but it's slow. When I mean slow, it's not like a dispatcher toning you out saying, go to XYZ address, you got a fire. It's got to wait till somebody reports it as a fire, and they get that report from that agency or that organization, and then they can put it on their watch duty. So when you sign up for watch duty, you'll see here, there's a little blue dot, Orfino, that's me. By the way, this screenshot was just taken earlier this week. Anyway, you can activate your county and you ask for alerts. I don't ask for alerts, but I can always go here when I'm suspicious of something or I need more information. But if you click on a fire, it will tell you more about it. And I clicked on the Gwen fire, and over here you can see, this is just a few days ago. It was at 28,000 acres, 0% containment. And by the way, today we're at 88% containment. Active. It had the evacuation orders and what they mean. And they back earlier this week, that was still what was going on. There was still level 3 evacuation. There was level 2, the ready, set, go. And here's the thing, I'm going to give you a little secret about evacuation. In the state of Idaho, no one can force you to evacuate except the governor. And it's rare for them to do that because it's politically charged. But if someone tells you to evacuate and police officers are coming by to evacuate, please do. Just know that they can't force you, but they might want to. All right, so what else we got on this program? If I click over here, I click closer to the Gwen fire, and I see that there's shelters and things highlighted. I've got the livestock shelter, churches and things. So I click on this one for Lewiston, and it says an RV hookup shelter in Nez Perce County Fairgrounds. It was updated, tells you 4 days ago. Nez Perce County Fairgrounds is open for shelter per the Nez Perce County Emergency Management. RV hookups are available at this time. Showers and restrooms are available. And our pens can accommodate small amounts of livestock. Larger livestock went to Asotin County or to my county. We had our county fairgrounds open for that. So overall, what you can see are all these fires here on my right side. That was just a couple of days ago. But you see these little grayed out fires. Well, over here is what's called the Texas fire. It's a weird name, but it was on Texas, a road named Texas. But it's grayed out. It means it's fully contained and it's just being monitored. It's not a threat right now. Can you see the value in this app? I do. All right, we had road closures. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. There's a road closes, Highway 12. Highway 12 is a major corridor for us around here. Highway 3, not so much, but Highway 12 is major. There's what you can go to is Idaho 511. Just Google Idaho 511. It'll take you to this page. I'm not going to drill down too much on this, but this page has a personality. Realize that. It is not perfect. Example, when I would zoom in to the area of our fire, and no, I don't have screenshots of that because it's over, it would say that at that time from Peck Junction to Arrow Bridge, the Highway 12 was closed. Yet I'd go by Peck and it didn't show it closed. Not at all. I'd scroll over closer to Lewiston, and when I picked up the little red indicator, then it highlighted the whole road. So realize if your first look doesn't show it, check around. do some looking. It has a personality. I am going to talk to them about this because where they have construction, it works perfectly. Where it's an emergency shutdown, not so well. Also realize they're not real fast on getting it up when it's closed, but they are really good at turning it off, opening a road when it does open. So that's something else to have in your toolbox. For you personally, this is a wonderful site. You can go in here, put in your county, put in your city, and it'll tell you the fire risk of your area. It'll tell you things you can do for your area, the type of environment you're in, and so on and so forth. It's a really good tool in that way to help you understand your fire areas. Then I bring this up once in a while because I'm connected to it. There's what's called 52 weeks of preparedness. I did this back in 2019 in a newspaper system around here every week for 52 weeks. And you heard Don Lynn talk about half a tank run on your half tank. Well, week one is exactly what the article was back in 2019. If you go to clearwatercounty.org, you go to departments, go to emergency management, and you can go to 52 weeks of preparedness, and you can download all of them. In fact, there's at the bottom, which I don't show here, is download all 52 weeks. But if you look here, week 20, wildfire, a call to action. 21, protect your home. 22, during a wildfire. 23, evacuation. 24, after a wildfire. Get these, share these. Ham radio operators should have stuff to share. If we're not going to be on scene on site, it's something we can do over the radio. In fact, one thing, well, I'll get to that now. One thing that I did, I would go to change of command meetings and so on and so forth. And then there's people that knew that when I come out, that I would get on the radio and announce what I could announce over a repeater that covered my area. And they could ask questions. The 14652, the national call, I think everybody should listen to that. We use it for the wilderness protocol, but during this fire actually happened right here. Had one of my ham radio operators home, and he hears a call on Highway 95, but it was line of sight because he's up high on the hill, and 95 was up high, but where the car was on 95, there's no cell coverage. And he was broke down. And he also didn't know where to go because he heard about all the fires and where the smoke was and all this kind of stuff. And so what they did is they talked to this ham radio operator. They're both hams. And they talked on the 5.2, a good 10 air miles. And ham radio operator got him a tow truck, got him everything. Beautiful. Wasn't a life or death, but it was sure helpful. But here's what I want you not to do. Example. During the Johnson Creek fire in 21, there was a amateur radio person in our area who made 8 unauthorized transmissions on government frequencies, went up to Elk River, went to the airstrip up there and started talking to the airplanes, giving them advice of where to go. On the second day, a forest supervisor went to that and found him, and there started the process with the FCC. The FCC fined him $34,000. He argued, and I'm sorry, this is not a good argument, but this was his argument. I didn't mean any harm. Please don't be that ham radio operator. Please. So, final answer, final everything. Let's be ready for everything. If we're not called out, let's support our community by having situational awareness. And that's the end of my share.
Well, very good. Anybody got any questions for Don? I don't see any. That was well done, Don. Be sure to send me your slides when you get done here.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
Yeah, I don't have a question for Don, but I want to make everybody aware that there is a program called Public Sector Power Shutoff. If you're not aware of it, it came up in Idaho for the first time, or last year, and they instituted it in the Treasure Valley for the first time this year. Not because there was a fire, but because there was fire weather with high winds. So in Canyon County and parts of Ada County, they actually turned off commercial power. So be aware that these programs are coming out. I put some information in the chat. I run into this all the time. Started in California, so there's something else we can blame there, but it's spreading up all up the Western US. And if you're not aware, it's even here in Idaho. And great, Don, I appreciate those websites. I jotted them down because those good websites, we need to share them.
Yeah, and I echo Don on the power companies. They are very proactive now, and it's kind of, they have to be. Very good notes there, Don Lynn.
Yes, Don. Great. Okay, well, unless there's more questions, we'll move this along to Polly. How you doing, Polly? This gal has been doing a great job on the newsletter. If you haven't read it yet, read it.
Well, I was able to combine those 2 months, last month, as we agreed. And then I already sent out the August one, even though it came back labeled as July and August, but that was my oversight. So I hope that people, like Don Lynn had pointed out for the field day, send in your field day photographs, a little bit on who you are and everything. I put someone in from up north into that, but I'd like to see more because we can put them out throughout the year and everything. And that's basically all that I have this time.
Okay, well, you're doing a great job. Really appreciate you there. Well, okay. Richard, you're on. Looks like the clubs are in the news again, so tell us about it.
Yes, they are. There's a lot going on right now. Of course, the big thing, I want to just remind everybody, it's been mentioned before, but I'm going to bring it up again. Tomorrow is the Idaho State Convention in Post Falls. And if you're headed up there, I hope you have a great time. I had fully intended to go, but I'm still struggling with some health issues and not cleared for travel yet. So I'm sticking to home and staying in the air conditioning tomorrow. Hope everybody has fun though. And I want to see pictures and I want to hear stories. So I'm excited. I hope to live vicariously through you guys making it up there to the convention. And there's a lot of other things going on. It's a busy summer. Of course, we just had a lot of activity for field day. We talked about that last month. One other thing I'd like to mention, the certificates and plaques for the awards that were mentioned in our last meeting are arriving. Most of the certificates have been received and the plaques are showing up where they need to be. And so if you haven't contacted me yet and have got those, would you please let me know? I just want to make sure that you get those. So we're working together with Mark on that to get that done, and he's been working hard at it. So without further ado, then I'd like to introduce to you my good friend Dick Thomas. Dick is a longtime ham. Been in the hobby for a long time. If you know anybody in Eastern Idaho that's been in ham radio for a long amount of time, they know Dick Thomas. And so I'm grateful for him being here tonight. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about one of the other loves of his life, which is the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club. He and his wife do a great job of supporting that club, taking care of things. They're kind of the camp cooks. So they take care of a lot of the creature comforts for the members of the club, and they do a great job. So with that, here's Dick Thomas. Take it away, Dick.
This is the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club, which we effectively called Park. And so I'd like to welcome everybody out to the Park, tonight's episode of the Park Show. And I'll be your host. My name's Dick Thomas. And my call is WA7VKE. If you have a hard time remembering that, just watch all 7 volts kill engineers. Good way to remember it. Anyway, the date, December 11th, 1957. Where were you? I want you to think about that. I know exactly where I was on that day, but anyway, you can think about that. And on that day, December 11, 1957, the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club was founded. And it's had several call signs, but the present one we have is N7PI. You've probably heard that, contests and things like that. It's pretty active. Okay, the founders are these 5 people here. And I had the privilege of meeting all of them before they became Silent Keys, and they left their mark on amateur radio in Eastern Idaho. I don't want to bore you with the details on every one of them. But I would bring up the 4th one there, Helen Malett, W7GGV. She went on from being one of the founders of the club to being what they called the Section Communications Manager for the state of Idaho for several years. And that title, Section Communications Manager, morphed into being a section manager. And there's some guy named Dan Marler, K7REX, that holds that position now. And maybe some of you might have met this guy. Anyway, Dan, there's one of your predecessors right there, Helen Malett, W7GGV. All right, well, I told you, where were you on December 11th, 1957? I know exactly where I was. I was in the oven. I was born 35 days later on January 15th, 1958. I was the 4th harmonic of Boyd Thomas. W7AVY was his call at that time, and later on became WB7SPX, and later on from that, KG7MP before he became a Silent Key. And of course, my mother, Edith Thomas. And so people ask, how did you get into ham radio? Well, it kind of shows you that I was pretty much born into it. So that's where it came from. Okay, when did the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club become affiliated with the Amateur Radio Relay League? Well, the answer to that is, I'm not really sure. That seems kind of funny because we received the plaque today for having been affiliated, but there's a little issue with it. The park was founded on December 11th, 1957, and last month at this meeting, park was recognized at that meeting for 67 years of ARL affiliation since September 1st, 1957. So, before we were organized, apparently we were ARL affiliated. Don't ask me how that happened. I cannot be blamed for this because remember, I was still in the oven. Okay. Anyway, the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club is a general purpose club. Our monthly meetings are always held on the 2nd Thursday of the month. And they generally start at 7 p.m., although that might change according to what the program is. They're held in any of the classrooms in the Trades and Technology Building at Idaho State University. Go Bengals. And if you want details on the program or the exact starting times and things like that, go to the club's website at www.pocatelloarc.org. One of the things I was going to say is recently we made some nifty name tags. Here's mine. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, that's my, this is what we made, and you'll see those around a little bit. We're pretty proud of those. All right, well, speaking of the club's website, www.pocatelloarc.org, the webmaster is a fellow named John Wilson, K0IP, and many of you might know him. I consider him to be the glue that's kind of held this club together for the last few decades. He came here working for the railroad from Kansas. That's why the zero call. And John is very passionate about amateur radio. He lives for amateur radio. In fact, his 2 passions in life, I think, are amateur radio and beer. And he has very opinionated on these things. And his opinions are on that club website. It's loaded with a lot of information on that club website. And John gives a few opinions. One thing he hates are Baofeng radios. So if you're trying to figure out how to program your Baofeng UV5R, probably that website is not a good place to find out what to do that. But generally, there is a lot of information on there that's worth your time. Historical stuff, a lot of things about amateur radio. It's all there. So worthwhile website to remember. Okay, we also give exams for people that want to be hams. And that's led by our club president, Craig Evans, K4TCO. He just recently took over that, and he's doing a great job of getting us organized. And we give tests for all license classes, technician, general, and extra. We do them every other month, January through November. We skip the summer months so people could go out and enjoy the flora and the fauna, I guess. But other than that, we're every other month. So if you want to come down to Pocatello, we'd be happy to give you an exam. And we have repeaters. Our most used one is the Mount Kidport 147.36 megahertz repeater. And it's over just on the west side of Pocatello. And the nifty thing about this is it's got a 10-meter link. And so when you're on there, you can, if the link is turned on, you can talk on 10 meters. If it's open, some amazing things happen. One time while I was conducting our Sunday night 2-meter net, I had forgotten to turn it off, and we had people checking in from Tucson, Arizona, Salem, Oregon, Modesto, California, all kinds of places. So it's kind of a nifty feature. I learned my lesson. I always shut it off before we do our net, our 2-meter net, but it was kind of fun that night. We have another repeater on Scout Mountain that gives good coverage in the southwest direction. It's having a little trouble right now. It's totally solar powered, and don't know how long its life is going to be. It may get moved to, I've even heard rumors they might even move it to Chinese Peak on the east side of Pocatello. Recently, we were inherited some equipment, and so we've got another couple more repeaters on 70 centimeters. Both of them are on Mount Kidport. This one on 448.4 has a 6-meter link on it. So when 6 meters open, some neat things can happen there. So try that out if you're ever in the Pocatello area. Have a lot of fun with that. And there's another one that's also on Mount Kidport, 442.1. And so we have 4 repeaters now. Another repeater in the area that is not owned by the club, it's on Channel 6 Hill east of Pocatello. And 146.82, it's used quite a bit. So we have five good repeaters there in Pocatello. All right, we have a 2-meter net every Sunday night on 147.36 megahertz at 7 o'clock local time. One of the nicest guys I know, good-looking guy, generally is the net control for that. So you might want to check in. You're all welcome to check in anytime you want. Okay, what are our programs? Well, we do field day like everybody else. And field day, of course, in the old days, you went out in the middle of nowhere and set up and tried to use alternative power systems and practice emergency communications in less than ideal conditions. And then the ARL started making their rules that kind of bent it towards away from so much as being an exercise as being a public relations event, as some of you know. And with that, we have also moved into some public parks in the Pocatello and Chubbuck area. And we generally run three or four transmitters. This year, we were down a little bit. We only had one transmitter. We were lucky to have that. But anyway, we have a lot of fun with that. We have a good meal there. As was mentioned, my wife handled that and did a great job. We have good dinners, and so we know how to party there. All right. Lately, we've been into hidden transmitter hunts, and the person that is over that is Rich Patrick, KR7W. He moved in from Tacoma, Washington, and up there, apparently they're big on hidden transmitter hunts. And so he's got us going on that, and the guy is an absolute mountain goat. Nothing stops him. And he's going to whip us all into shape or kill us in the process. I don't know which. But anyway, what we offer with basic transmitter hunts is we have base construction. We have construction of antennas using the measuring tapes and things like that. And we have little practices in the parking lot or the local park. And then we generally have a large full-scale transmitter hunt. And that's not for the faint of heart. But anyway, Rich Patrick has gotten us going on that and doing a great job. Okay. We also have in our meetings, we have electronics and radio instruction, typical things, talk about components and schematic symbols, really helping a lot of the newer hams get acquainted with these things. We talk about circuits and how they work and test equipment and antennas and soldering, kit building and mathematics. I taught a lesson once on how to work all the RCL problems in the extra exam without how to do them all in your head. And some people appreciated it, some people didn't. So anyway, that's why we do a few things like that. We also on operating, we have presentations on MCOM. We do have an Aries group here in Pocatello, public service. We work CWFM, single sideband, repeaters, logging software, beacons, satellites, digital modes. We've had things on Skywarn, National Weather Service, and scouting. We support the Scout Mountain Scoutorama every year. I'm a scouter, and Elborn Hewitt, aka 7MLM, and his lovely wife Beverly N7WYK. They help me work that for the scouts, and we have a good time doing that. We also talk about equipment, HF transmitters, VHF, UHF, antennas, antenna tuners, SWR, and power meters, power supplies. I could do a power supply one next month. And talk about batteries and tube gear. Some people call them fire bottles. Historical equipment, military equipment, QRP. We do a lot of stuff. These are not all in 1 year. This is several years worth of topics I can think of that we've talked about. And we are party animals. We have a Christmas party that is not to be missed. Our Christmas party is really a good event. Everybody goes there, has a good time. We also have the field day dinner. My wife did charge of that this last time. We had a great chicken dinner. And we have raffles and door prizes. And some of our most effective things are done in the after the meeting meetings. And so that's a little bit about us. Now, we're getting close to the end. I see that our clock is about to run out. I want to tell you before we end here, one of my proudest moments as a member of the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club. Okay, as you can see, there's a slide of the ARL flag. I don't know how much you're familiar with it. It got chopped off a little bit on the top of the bottom. But anyway, one of my proudest moments of being a member of the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club came a few years ago when I attended a ham fest over in Rock Springs, Wyoming. Now, where I live, Rock Springs is only a few hours away. And so I went over there, and it was a good little ham fest. They did some innovative things that I was pretty impressed with. And anyway, it was also the Wyoming State Convention. And the section manager for Wyoming got up in the middle of it, and he said, now, I want to award an ARL flag to the ARL affiliated club that can answer this question. If there's anybody here for those clubs that can answer this question, I will give them a flag. And he says, what do the stripes on the ARRL flag stand for? Well, I knew I was a visitor, so I was kind of sheepish. I looked around and nobody was raising their hand. So I raised my hand and I said, well, those stripes are varying widths, and the wide ones are indicative of a DA in Morse code, and the narrow ones are indicative of a DIT in Morse code. And so those ones at the top, there's da 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 da, which is Q, and then down there the three thin ones, which is dit is S, and then at the bottom is a wide one, which is T, so it says QST. QST, of course, the Q signal, it means calling attention to all radio amateurs. It's also the name of the main magazine of the American Radio Relay League. And the section manager smiled. He says, we have a winner of the ARL flag. And he smiled at me and he says, I need to get your information down. He says, what's your name? And I said, Dick Thomas. He wrote it down. He was still smiling. He says, what's your call, Dick? I said, WA7VKE. And he wrote it down. He's still smiling. And he says, now, what is your affiliated club? And I says, my affiliated club is the Pocatello Amateur Radio Club from Pocatello, Idaho. And suddenly his smile disappeared. because he anticipated that that flag was going to end up in the hands of an affiliated club in the great state of Wyoming, but we stole it away from him and came through, and so that's one of my prouder moments. And they were good to their word. They brought the flag, and so that's one of my prouder moments. Okay, questions, comments, or witty sayings? Go ahead.
Be sure to check chat. There's a lot of good information in there. Kelly, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that since you brought up John's name, K0IP, he is one of my big helpers in the Idaho QSO party. He keeps the
Yes.
Idaho QSO party website going on your servers there at the Pocatello Club. So thanks to John and all he does for the QSO party.
Yes, John does a lot of that stuff. He also operates yellow pages for buying, selling, and trading amateur gear. Y'all ought to get on that. It's all on the www.pocatelloarc.org. You can find all that stuff. He does a lot with the Idaho QSO party, like Kelly said. By the way, a lot of the information you probably need, Kelly, is probably on that website. So that you were asking for tonight.
I do have a link, I believe, from the Idaho ARRL website to that yellow page.
Yeah, good place to get stuff. So, okay, anybody else?
Dick, I'll make a comment if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
I just want to thank Dick personally for coming on tonight. He came at pretty short notice. I had been trying to get another club lined up for a little bit, and I could never get a hold of him, but I can always get a hold of Dick, and I can always count on him. He's just one of those kind of guys. And I truly appreciate you being here tonight, Dick. You did a fantastic job. I loved the presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thanks, Rich. Appreciate it, and good to meet with you. And come on down to our meetings. Come to our Christmas party. Come down anytime. We're glad to have all of you. And so I'll say 73s to all of you, and back to you, I guess, Dan or Rich.
Well, it's been a great presentation. I'd like to ask you the same thing. Email me your slides to get a chance, and we'll be sure to get it out there so the other hands can enjoy that afterwards. A lot of people come on and watch the videos after these. They got other things they're doing on this day, so especially in the summertime. All right. Again, check the chat. Chat has a bunch of good information in there. Always does. Okay, Kelly, get your hand up.
Yeah, before you go, I just wanted to mention that the Mini-Casia tailgate swap meet's coming up in Rupert on August 17th. And I have this flyer. The flyer is on the main page of the Idaho ARRL website in case anybody would be interested in going to that. It's kind of gaining speed, and it was a lot of fun last year. I had quite a bit of stuff there, and a lot of people showed up.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything? With that, I'm going to say 73s, everybody. And if I don't see it on the coax cable, we'll see you on the line next time around.